Welcome back to the King's Corner. Even though I'm south of the border, the place for all things Bethesda, I am the KingFanMan. We continue our search for the scariest places in Fallout 76. We have a good one for you today, a place called Hawk's Nest, West Virginia. Sit back and enjoy. Hawk's Nest, West Virginia is a peak on Gully Mountain, 585 feet above the New River, near the town of Instead, West Virginia. The name Hawk's Nest comes from the many hawks who used to call these massive cliffs their homes. One of the things this area is most famous for is the view. In fact, today it has been made into a state park. Being almost a 600-foot bluff above the river, it provides gorgeous views of the river and the valleys for miles around. But in this old world, we know you cannot have the beauty of a rose without some thorns. Sadly, this beautiful place has a very long legacy of tragedy. The scenic vista and overlook received a popular nickname way back in the 1800s, when the locals started calling the steep cliff at Hawk's Nest Lover's Leap. It got this name because not one, but at least two different couples plunged to their deaths off the 600-foot cliff face. In fact, a total of at least 7 confirmed suicides took place here at Hawk's Nest, all of them specifically at the Lover's Leap Cliff. And even though the park officials are very reluctant to even talk about the suicides, they will admit there were probably many more that were not documented. The first couple to jump were said to be an Indian princess and her lover from an enemy tribe. Yes, it does sound a lot like Romeo and Juliet, and some would say that it might show that this story is not true. But it also could show that love and hate are the same with Native Americans as they are with Shakespeare, and sadly, the same as it is today. The story goes that they chose to live together in eternity rather than live apart in this world. So they jumped hand in hand off the cliff to their deaths. The next pair of lovers were a pair of pioneers from Lewisburg, known at the time Fort Union. They fled their homes because the girl's parents didn't approve of their relationship. It is said the girl did not jump out of despair, she got dizzy and fell. And then seeing his love dead, he jumped after her to his death. A few of the other deaths are more modern, so I will leave their stories untold out of respect for them and their families. But I am sure their stories are just as full of passion and anguish, just like the stories of old. Now, Lover's Leap is not the only place of tragedy at Hawk's Nest, West Virginia, and it's not even the worst place of tragedy by far. There may have been dozens of people die from jumping off the mountain, or even more, but you can bet the death toll never even got close to how many poor souls lost their lives inside the mountain. Yes, you heard me right, inside the mountain. In 1927, work began on Hawk's Nest Tunnel near the Gully Bridge. It was part of a hydroelectric project. It was meant to divert water from the New River to a plant downstream at Alloy. However, things went horribly wrong. The project is considered, even today, to be one of the worst industrial disasters in American history. During construction of the 3-mile tunnel under Gully Mountain, workers found the mineral silica in massive abundance, and were not only digging through it for the tunnel, but were also asked to mine it for use in the electroprocessing of steel. The workers were not given any breathing equipment or even masks while mining. And as a result of this exposure to the silica dust, most of the workers developed silicosis, a debilitating lung disease, and almost all of the workers died from silicosis. Many of those in less than a year to the exposure. There are no definite statistics as to how many workers actually died. The historical marker at the site reads 109 admitted deaths, but we know it is far from the truth. Later, a congressional hearing was held and placed the death toll at 476. However, most reliable sources place the actual death toll of all workers, including African American and Chinese workers, at 700 to over 1,000 deaths. Many also became sick and left the area, which even makes it harder to get an exact count. But needless to say, almost every worker that dared that tunnel did not come out the same person. And for the very fact that they didn't immediately die from the condition, they did lose their health and their ability to work, and if the silicosis didn't get them in the end, they would suffer with it for a lifetime. So as you are starting to see this beautiful place nestled deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a place that looks like it is made for a postcard, it's not all splendor and beauty. As I said before, you look hard enough at every rose and you will find the thorns. With this many tragic deaths, you know there are tales of ghosts and spirits. But the question is, are those just stories? Or is this place really touched with the spiritual, like we have seen with a few other special places around West Virginia? Now, sadly, this place was touched with tragedy yet one more time. In 1908, an explosion rocked the Bachman Mine. That was a small draft mine operated by the New River Valley Coal Company. On January the 30th, 1908, 9 workers were killed when an explosion was accidentally set off in the mine. Now, it is said because of this tragedy that Hawks Nest Park is haunted by a, and pardon me for mispronouncing this, a genius loci. Now, this term comes from the Roman culture, and it refers to a protective spirit. Now, there are many tales of ghosts and spirits from the park, like this genus loci, but there's also tales like the glowing white horse that has been seen several times around the park, once by a whole campsite full of campers. They even said it left a glow behind it as it ascended into the sky. But if you really want to experience the paranormal at Hawks Nest Park, then there are a few special places you can go. One, again, if you really are adventurous, you can cross Hawks Nest Lake, and it might be hid by time, a little grown up by nature, but that old mine where that explosion happened in 1908 that I was just speaking of is an excellent place. They say if you want to see a ghost, then if you will just stop and listen when you first see the mine, then you might just hear the old miners still working, bringing in that old coal still today. And every once in a while, a lucky or unlucky person, it's according how you look at it, actually gets to see one of those miners outside the old mine. But they say don't go exploring in that old mine. Number one, it's very dangerous. But number two, remember that protective spirit I was telling you about that roams around Hawks Nest Park? He's very, very protective over that mine. He is said to keep people out of that mine by any means possible. People have reported having rocks thrown at them trying to enter the mine. They have been touched. They have been scratched. And my favorite report is that the spirit has been known to show himself face to face, and I mean nose to nose. If people don't take the hint to get out, he will just appear all of a sudden, nose to nose, saying, "Get out!" Yep, that would do it for me. Another great place to see and hear ghost activity is the old cemetery down by Hawks Nest Tunnel. In fact, this one is very much frequented by paranormal investigators. It is where many of the men were buried from the tunnel disaster. Many of them, even without a funeral, without a headstone, and of course without markers. And it's because they had no family and had no money. The cemetery is a very hot spot, they say, for EVPs, which stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon. Now that is where a paranormal investigator sets up a recorder. And normally nothing can be heard with the human ear. But when you play back the recording, you can hear ghostly whispers. Now some skeptics say, well, they're just picking up radio waves or CB traffic from the highway. However, the paranormal investigators point out that many times these ghostly whispers will be answering questions with the correct words. And of course, that would be beyond a coincidence if it was just picking up a radio station. Ghostly figures of the men have also been reported being seen in the cemetery. And you can't hardly venture down by the tunnel anymore, but they say that is extremely active in paranormal activity today. But probably my favorite spot in all of my research for paranormal activity anyway brings us back to the very first place we were talking about, Lover's Leap. And if I ever went and visited Hawk's Nest, I would have to go and visit Lover's Leap, even though I'm very scared of heights. I would want to go visit the cliff itself. On a calm night, they say, you can hear screams coming from down in the valley below, what sounds like someone falling from off the cliff. They even say sometimes you can hear the impact of a body on the ground below. Now that would be entirely creepy, but just set yourself in the moment. On a cold, calm night, standing there on the edge of a 600-foot drop, and hearing ghostly screams sounding like they're falling right there in front of you. And even hearing what sounds like the thud of a body, that would be creepy. But it gets much, much worse. The absolutely creepiest thing of all, they say if you walk right up to the edge, and they say it has to be to the very, very edge, and if you stand very still and very quiet, that many times you will be able to hear whispers in your ear. And some people have even felt a hand reach out and grab their arm and pull them back. Now, most have said the whispers are too low to understand, but it is very clear that someone is trying to talk to them. Maybe it's one of the ones who took their own lives, and their purpose in life now is to stand guard there day and night just to try to prevent anyone else from doing what they did. And maybe they have so much regret from a wasted life that they're trying to make up for it by saving someone else's life. Hawk's Nest is an amazing and beautiful part of creation. And sure, it has seen its share of heartache and tragedy. It once was a bustling place of work with mines and tunnels, but today it rests. And in the day, it masquerades as a fun family getaway. But at night, the spirits of its past take over. It looks like a quiet piece of heaven, but if you look a little closer, a little bit deeper, it is seething with spirits of all kinds. Are you brave enough to go explore the old ruined mine across the lake? Will you pay your respects to all those men who died unsung in life and in death? And will you trust your life to the ghost at Lover's Leap? Will you walk to the very edge and hear the lover's whisper in your ear and feel the lover's embrace on your arm? All of this awaits you at Hawk's Nest, West Virginia. Hey guys, I know it was a little bit shorter one, but this was actually one of my favorites to research because it had some great stuff, not only physically with all the beauty of West Virginia, and West Virginia is gorgeous, isn't it? But the paranormal stuff was just so unique with some otherworldly stuff with like Roman culture and stuff, but with the Lover's Leap, just very, very unique stuff. So I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too as well. As always, all my links are down below. I'm so glad I got a little bit of time on my Mexico trip to be able to work on KingFanMan stuff. Y'all continue your prayers as I'm going on revival down here. Hopefully I'll be back very, very soon. Y'all like me and follow me down below. As always, if you're not a subscriber, click that button. And if you're able, please help me in Patreon. I need money to get back. I don't know if I can afford that plane ticket, so please help me. I am the KingFanMan. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.